today's session is about how to fill up faster by creating a consistent, high quality prospect experience. So I'll be walking you through the customer journey from the first call to the follow-up and provide tips for improving or fixing any gaps we have in conversions. So just a little bit about myself. I specialize in helping operators to grow their occupancy through better sales, marketing, and customer experience. So I've spent 25 years on the operator side in sales and marketing or CCO roles, in later living in hotels. And for the last 8 years, I run my own consultancy dedicated to commercial acceleration. So that is a little bit about me. So the question for the operators in the room is about the level of voids at the moment. I'm working with various operators, and this topic is always, a nightmare. Keeping people up at night is how many rooms are currently sitting at empty. And with the concerning temperature changing to the winter, it's always a troubling time of year with regards to the net movement of residents. And so, yeah, this is just a few typical people looking stressed out on the slides. Is often, unfortunately, the case is how do we reduce those voids? We don't want empty rooms. And what's often missing here is the consistency, which is a word I'm going to keep saying. This is a consistency of how prospects are managed. And small gaps in the process quickly become large gaps in occupancy and revenue. So today, in these 20 minutes, I'm going to go through 4 areas. The first is prospect experience. Second, call handling. Thirdly, the tour, or some people would call it the show round or visit. And fourthly, the follow-up. So, on to the prospect experience. So when we say prospect experience, there's different words people would use: customer journey, customer experience. The bit that I'm really focused on and specialize in is the part of the journey right at the front, from when the awareness is made that they want to come and move into a care home, to then picking up the phone, to then hopefully coming in for a tour, and then to the follow-up, and then to the move-in. So this is just a very
You want to get it on your phone and do it there? Yes.
simple, we'll just do that. Simple view of what a customer journey looks like. As we know, it's not linear like this, and it's often cyclical and round, but it's just saying that the part that we are really focusing on today is the prospect experience, of which there are so many levers which are in our control that we can fix. So that is the great news here, is a lot of what we're talking about is fixable, and some of it is very fixable quite fast, with the right tools and resources and trainings in place. So if we then go on to just a quick question, how many touch points do we think on average is the prospect experience?
So if you give us the responses, if you put A, B, or C, and if you put it into the chat, I'll collate it all together and present it to Ellie so we know roughly what the majority of people are saying.
Yeah, so thank you. We will just pause there a bit, let you all put some answers in.
So the majority of people have said C. We've got a couple of B's and 1 A.
The majority is correct. A typical move-in takes around 20 to 25 touch points. So that's about 20 to 25 chances to influence the outcome or to drop the ball. So the consistency across these moments defines the conversion rate. It just surprises a lot of people how many touch points it is, how many moments that we need to maximize, or how many moments can drop off. So this is just a visual diagram overlaying the leaky bucket onto the customer journey. So a leaky bucket is just moments where a lead has come in, but then certain things in our funnel are happening that unfortunately the water is leaking out. It's like an analogy that I'm sure all of you have heard from, where we're trying to put plasters over it. So, yeah, for instance, was the phone not answered? Or on the website, is the phone number wrong? Um, when someone came to reception, were they waiting 15 minutes before they were going on their tour? All these are moments that we are potentially dropping off. So today we're really going to focus on three areas within this where we can control a lot the experience to get this consistent prospect experience. The first phone call, this call handling, the first phone call sets the tone for the entire relationship. It's often the make or break moment from a prospect's confidence. And I love data. So, on average, it could be 67% of interactions are by the phone. And missing or mishandling even a small portion of these calls can result in just a huge lost opportunity. So we have another question here.
What would we say is the percentage of missed calls?
Missed calls. Yeah.
And again, if you give the answers, we'll put it into the chat. I'll collate it and let Ali know what the majority are, and then the breakdown.
Thanks, Jem. So is it 20-30? Is it 10 to 20%? Or is it over 50% of missed calls? And this is on average. I know for those of you who likes data like me, were thinking, well, is it during working hours or out of hours? And yeah, this is combined. So Jem, any sort of scores on the doors, please?
So we've got a mix of A's, B's, and C's. To be fair, it is pretty split.
Yeah. Yeah, no, interesting. And I think a lot of this is revealing that it's actually quite shocking, the data, when you look at the whole of England and benchmark it, which I do all the time. So this answer is actually C, that over 50% of calls are getting missed, which is, really quite shocking. And on the positive of shocking, which I always am sort of more glass half full, represents a huge opportunity to improve our conversions and our revenue from working out ways to handle those calls. So the calls are absolutely critical. And let's now look at the difference between a good and a bad call. So there's many factors on this, and I do a lot of training in this area to go into many more of these and role play with people. But just if we look at some of the general essential standards here of what makes up a good and a bad call. So we've got the speed of answer. Are our calls being handled within 3 rings, or is it like bad that it's 15 rings? Well, sometimes it's 2 minutes, 5 minutes not answered. What about the environment? Can we make it so it's a really like nice, quiet environment where we can hear people? And how about the response time to inquiries? What great looks like is that we're responding in under 5 minutes. And what bad looks like, and is totally happening, unfortunately, is sometimes a big delay of 2 days, 3 days before coming back, of which by that point the customer is obviously most likely gone to competitors or somewhere else. And then an area which is absolutely massive in our industry is the level of empathy on the call, really putting yourself in the customer's shoes there. This is such a emotional, vulnerable moment, we know, and thinking, well, what is that level of empathy that I'm showing on this call, this really critical call? Great calls would be super high in this area. The best salespeople are amazing at empathy. And then discovery questions. Often, unfortunately, our calls are very transactional and dry or medical. And the best calls would be really dialed up on the human interest, really finding ways to ask about their potential loved ones and what are their likes, their dislikes, hobbies, what a good day looks like. These are great open curiosity questions. And then obviously more of a call to action about, did we move down the funnel? Did we get an advance? The best calls would certainly be doing that. And so talking about empathy, the best calls and the whole red thread of this is about the power of connection. And this is just a lovely saying about people will never forget how you made them feel. So they'll forget what you said and that stuff. But according to Maya Angelou, and it's a lovely saying, is it's how you make that person feel on the call that they feel really seen and valued and heard. And that's a wonderful interaction and feeling that we can be in control of as we talk to people on the phone call. So there's during work hours where we can really try to put solutions in place to make sure our phone calls are really prioritized and picked up as soon as possible in the best way. And then there's out of hours. And, we know prospects, they don't inquire 9 to 5. You look at statistics, many percentage occurs out of hours. It depends per care home, per location. But sometimes, 25%, 1 in 5 are happening outside of hours. And it's often the biggest conversion gap. And missing those calls is absolutely a huge measurable cost. Each private funded client, if we just take an average of a weekly fee of 1,500 times it by 52 weeks, each private client missed could be about 80,000 revenue per year. And that's just per year. That's not even customer lifetime value. So treating call handling as like a revenue protection is a really mindset shift, and it's something that's really important to focus on and think through solutions of how will you get that call answered, of which, and anyone wants to bounce that with me can speak to me anytime after this, whether it's internal solutions or working with external telephone company providers who do call center handling. So now we're moving down the funnel and we're into the tour. The tour is your best chance to create an emotional connection. It should feel like a personalized, welcoming experience, not just a checklist or something to get through fast. So let's explore what great looks like for a tour. So the best tours would have an amazing sense of arrival. And there's many factors that go into the word sense of arrival. So that's curb appeal. So the first visual impressions, those 7 seconds from coming into your car park to walking through the doors, really important, that arrival experience, the sensory part of it, the first impressions from people smiling at us, being met. That is an excellent tour. And then going into a lovely refreshment session where you can have deep discovery meetings about getting to really understand the potential residents' needs, their interests, and also the family member and what their concerns and their needs are. And then really personalizing the tour. So from that discovery call that we just spoke about, where you would start to understand the wants and the interests, you would then be able to weave that to shape the tour. So if you knew that someone's loved one was really into knitting or gardening, for example, you could then be thinking, right, what do I do with the tour there? Could I put it on a time where there was a knitting group on? Or if someone's in the garden, really into the gardening, why don't we go into the garden and spend a lot of time on that, and then maybe meet another key member of the team, such as the gardener, and this would all be planned in advance. So it's a really planned exercise when you do a tour, thinking what is in our control beforehand, and then it's a bit like theatre on the day, that everything is actually very well proactively thought out before, and you just make it look very easy and seamless, but it blows the customer away. The length of the tour, bad for me. Sometimes I'm around tours in 10 minutes on mystery shops, but the best tours, some of them are even longer than 45 minutes, because really getting to know the connection and building that rapport, matching the solutions. And then, this list could go on, but, other ones about marketing materials provided. We know it's all about building trust, and those transparency of the information that is shared at the end can really help. Have you got an example activity schedule, example menu, pricing, useful guides? And then thinking about the out of hours or weekend cover. So when your main salesperson or customer relationship manager is not there, is that backup team trained or planned? Often, unfortunately, they're totally not. And you have different staff members, whoever they are, activities members, carers, showing people around, and it's unfortunately, not an optimal tour experience at all. So could we absolutely get our backup teams trained well? And then let's talk about follow-up, which is often a very underused or undervalued part of the sales process. But most homes, unfortunately, they don't follow up at all. Just checking to see if people are still interested and thanking them for coming in. So this leads to one of our next quiz questions to ask you about.
So, what is the percentage who don't actually follow up? And again, if we could put the responses A, B, or C in the chat, I'll collate it all, present it to Ellie. So with this one, I'd say it's majority C's, but B's not that far behind.
Right, yeah. Okay, well, thanks for that, Gemma. So yeah, it is actually C. It is more than 70% do not have a follow-up, which, yeah, I just saw Lawrence's face there. It's really quite shocking. And if you ever wanted more breakdown of this, such as follow-up after one touch point or two, there's, just more data. But yeah, this is unfortunately just the main thing, that people come in for a tour and then there's just nothing. And it's such an area that we can get better. And I spend a lot of my time working with people on follow-up sequences. This is just an example, but to map out is that regularity of follow-up and what are the different touch points that are in our control. What happens on day one? Is it a call? Is it an email? What happens on day 3, day 5, day 45, day 90? A lot of this can be proactively thought about, and depending on your CRM system, some of it can be automatically fed into their templates and tools. But otherwise, a lot of this can be prepared in draft emails that can be copied and pasted with personalization, or, for a lot around cards or some resources can be prepared in advance. So yes, do you have a follow-up sequence, and is it consistent that all of your care homes and your team would know what it is and what expectations look like? And then there's sales half of it, and my skill is absolutely sales and marketing, so I'm looking always across the funnel. Is, well, what can marketing also do on the follow-up? So these are just some examples. There's lots of different areas marketing can provide to help nurture the prospects. So we could have newsletters. So some of these images are just from ones that arrive in my post here. You can have actual images. You could have event invites coming out, which is such a brilliant one. So this was, join a food and wine pairing, or come for another event, a summer festival, an autumn fair. Some emails are also just marketing generated. Here's a customer testimonial. So follow-up is a combination of sales and marketing working together. And sorry, one before that. How do we also not be vanilla in our follow-up? So an email is an email, can be quite bland, a call is a call. But these are different ideas of creative follow-up, thoughtful follow-ups that can make you stand out. So have you got a handwritten card? Could the card relate to their hobby if they're really into dogs? For instance, that's the top left one. Could we send a dog photo on the front? Did we actually hear that they're really into cooking? So maybe sending our favorite chef's recipe out would blow them away. I love the area of brainstorming with people, great creative follow-ups, and it all comes from that first phone call and tour, is knowing what really resonated with the person. So for all these areas that we're talking about, the question to the operators on the call would be, do you have your expectations set out? So do you have different languages would be used here, but do you have customer experience manuals, sales process standards? Because then that's how you get consistency, as everybody knows what's expected of them. So, when doing a tour, do you offer tea or coffee? Do you? Well, that should be a moment that is written down. So it's not saying it's exactly scripts and everything, but these are general great guidelines of best practices of what we expect. And this is just a visual here of many things that I produce with teams to make sure that we can train this through for everybody. So have we got customer inquiry forms? Have we got tour walkthrough checklists? So it's all very organized and ensuring consistency because we all know what great looks like, and we're prepared for it, and we're using tools and resources that are best practices. And then what are we measuring? So we're talking about the customer experience, and we know what gets measured gets done. And there's many different metrics that we could put across, but I work with care home operators all over the country looking at these different metrics. And I would ask for yours, is are you tracking all of these? So often someone talks about conversion. Well, there's at least 3 different conversion points I put on the screen here about what specific conversion have you got for each of your homes at each point. So your lead to visit, what is that? And how does it compare to the industry standard? So for instance, 45%. Right, well, that might be something to celebrate because that might be above the average in England. What about visit to move in? Ooh, that might only be 14%. So then you'd know, right, that is well below the average here. What can we do about that area? Let's specifically put training and tools in place to handle that area. And, a lot of mystery shopping as well would really help you also unlock what, which area can you improve and fix, which I do all the time as well. And that's a great scoring in much more granularity on the touch points. So wanted to pause there, just looking at time. I know we're running through here. So would love to open it up to any questions and happy to stay on with people as long as or call me another time. We have another webinar coming up on the 19th of November, and that is all about unreasonable hospitality, which is a book that has come out not recently, but a book that is recently in so much buzz in England about how you use the hospitality experiences to make these moments of magic and surprise and delight, and how we can apply that to care homes. So that's a very passion area of mine, I think, because I'm always working in hotels and care homes. So that is something we would love you to join.